some ways, at some point in your life, everybody can be a lost rider. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House. Listening post to the Texas Sportsman Association. It's Herman Brune. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by Shell's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. All right, I'll tell you what, we're up here in Reno, Nevada this weekend. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to visit with Chester Moore. Chester Moore is a Texas outdoor writer. He's a documentary person. What do you call that?
Producer, writer, narrator.
Okay, all right. Yeah, he does documentaries these days. He's also the main editor at Texas Fishing Game.
Editor-in-chief, yes, sir. Editor-in-chief, Texas Fishing Game.
All right. And so he's up here. He's been collecting interviews, and he's been in this game longer than I have. But I pick up pretty quick. I let him go get a half a dozen interviews, and then I just interview him and get all the information at one time. So that's what we're doing this morning. Anyway, Chester, how y'all doing? How you enjoying Reno?
Doing great. Here, my buddy Paul Fazinski, who does the filmmaking part of it, and I do the producing, narrating, writing. It's a great team, and we've been having a good time. We've interviewed, I think, 16 people in the last couple of days.
All right, and how far will that take you? When you do interview 16 people, where does that show up? And, tell me why.
So the work we're doing here is contractor work with the Wild Sheep Foundation. Mm-hmm. So we're working on a couple of different documentary projects for them. And it's almost evenly split, like 8 and 7 or something like that, or whatever it is, 9 and 7 between the two different documentaries we're doing. But, you'll have 4 hours worth of interview, and you're going to have a 15-minute documentary, or 20-minute documentary. Right, so right. It's down to getting the absolute best out of the people to tell the story that we're telling, And it's been exciting because one thing about wild sheep conservation and the amazing work of the Wild Sheep Foundation, it's never dull. There's always something new, something cutting edge. And one of them was like a historical look back at things. And it's been neat to see where these projects are going and have come from.
All right, and I need to reiterate something that my listeners, we didn't say it, but Wild Sheep Foundation. If you grew up reading Jack O'Connor and all those guys that like we did, wild sheep, that's the elite hunters of North America. Wild sheep, bighorn sheep, desert bighorns, Dall sheep, stone sheep. That's the elite hunters, the guys who go out backpack, hunt for 9 or 10 days. Climbing mountains, hunting sheep. This is what we consider the elite hunters of North America. I mean, God, we love elk hunting, we love mule deer hunting, we love whitetail hunting. But the sheep hunters, those are the guys that are really kind of doing it. But sheep need taking care of, and they're kind of a ticklish breed, ticklish species when it comes to wild sheep as far as health, I think disease and health and habitat and all that kind of stuff. So that is the purpose of the Wild Sheep Foundation. I believe to raise money for conservation to manage and oversee and take care of these sheep. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Perfect. Yeah, to put and keep wild sheep on the mountain is the vision and the mission statement. And there's a lot of issues with wild sheep, but the number one is disease.
Keep talking.
The number one issue is disease. Mycoplasma pneumoniae is a respiratory pathogen, and that makes them susceptible to all kinds of problems. And what happened was when domestic sheep with European lineage came across the West, we had maybe 1.5 million or so bighorns, and then by 1960 we had 25,000 bighorns. Mm-hmm. All of that wasn't disease, but the vast majority was disease issues, which still persist. And so a lot of the work from groups like the Wild Sheep Foundation is translocating sheep into different herds, maybe from different states to help start a new herd, research, collaring, disease research. So lots of things going in it. And because there aren't enough wild sheep to pay their way with just a regular permit. So there has to be other people helping different ways of wild sheep.
All right. Tell me a little bit about some of the people you talk to, some of the different type. I know you go to each person, you're trying to get a little different angle on this whole aspect. So Like who?
Yeah, so Gray Thornton, the CEO of Wild Sheep Foundation, and we were talking about the impact of these conservation permits. That Wild Sheep Foundation, not Wild Sheep Foundation alone, but chapters, affiliates, and all the NGOs dedicated to wild sheep, and these permits are paying for a gigantic proportion of all wild sheep conservation in North America, because a lot of the state and provincial agencies, they don't have as much money as wild sheep takes. I mean, like wild sheep require a lot.
Right.
White-tailed deer, we're basically trying to find ways to keep populations down and manage for big antlers.
Right.
Elk are doing pretty well.
Right.
And, habitat's an issue. But wild sheep have habitat issues, predation issues, and disease issues. So there aren't enough tags for the public in general to pay for, all the conservation. So these conservation permits, raffles, all this is a live radio show, by the way.
Yeah.
Someone had a dog bite me on a show.
Be sweet.
So it's just these visionary people that started what was called the Foundation for North American Wild Sheep in 1977, and it became the Wild Sheep Foundation. And then you have groups in Texas, like the Texas Bighorn Society, a wonderful organization, and you got the Rocky Mountain Bighorn Society in Colorado, and many other groups that are all putting in to put and keep wild sheep on the mountain.
Good deal. All right. Yes, Texas, we've got Texas Bighorn Society. Texas has, a few people know that Texas has desert bighorns. It's out on, was that Elephant Mountain out there?
Yeah, Elephant Mountain Wildlife Management Area, Sierra Diablo Wildlife Management Area, Black Gap Wildlife Management Area, and then private lands. There's also some in Big Bend National Park and those areas as well. But we never had in the last 100 years a big population, but the population had gotten close to like post 1900 levels, around 1500 bighorns, and then we didn't have a disease issue, and then we had a disease issue, and it knocked the population way back. And that disease issue is believed to be traced to something very familiar to many Texans, which is the aoudad. There's about, at high points, 1,500 bighorns west of the Pecos, but there's somewhere between 75,000 and 100,000 aoudad west of the Pecos.
Right.
So there's a lot of issues with that, but there was a really great victory that Texas Bighorn Society, Texas Parks and Wildlife, of course, and Wild Sheep Foundation had when bighorns were translocated from Elephant Mountain to the Franklin Mountains out in El Paso and Franklin Mountain State Park in 2024 in December. And that was historical because that's the first time the Franklin Mountains have had bighorns in over 100 years. And they're doing great. They had lambs this year, and they're doing great.
All right. Okay. So you've been covering this for these guys a couple of years now.
Yeah, I've been doing quite a bit of writing. It's a real honor and privilege to get to write with them, such a great organization, doing some contract work for them. And it's always interesting. It's always inspiring to see like this Herculean effort to help, a game animal and incredible. And you mentioned like earlier, it's like the elite hunters. Well, these are really like the elite game animal. They live in the highest places and they go to the craziest spots and it's the harshest habitats, like them and a mountain goat. What else in North America lives in a more harder to get place? Right. And so just thinking about those animals on the mountain up there, I think always, I'm from the Texas coast, man. I live at 14 feet elevation. Right. I may never draw a sheep tag, and I may never get in sheep shape either to get one. But
you're from Beaumont.
Yeah, I'm from Orange, which is right there. So it's a long way from sheep country, but I've always been intrigued by them. When I was a kid, I used to sit in my dad's lap, and we would put together scrapbooks of animals we want to go hunt and go see. And for a nickel a piece, I could go to the thrift store and buy every magazine I had. So I bought all the outdoor magazines: Sports Field, Field and Stream Outdoor Life, Saltwater Sportsman. And I had multiple scrapbooks. And I went back and looked at them. About half the photos in the big game, I had fishing ones and big game ones. About half the photos in the big game ones were wild sheep. Okay. I must have clipped every single wild sheep photo I found because I've always had an interest in it. And it's just something that intrigues me.
Well, yes, of course. Wild sheep they're just, they're kind of a rarity. You don't just see them as often as you see deer or elk or any of those types of things. And we know they're up in the peaks. But you've been around the country a little bit. You've not just Texas and not just out in West Texas. You've been up around Wyoming, Montana, and some of the places, and got to go do some film work.
Yeah, and I photographed bighorns in West Texas, Colorado a bunch, Wyoming, Montana, and Nevada as well. And Nevada was funny because there's a kind of a legendary spot where they show up at a baseball field, like desert bighorns. And I went there, and the whole place like it was covered in sheep crap, you know. And the lady goes, "You looking for the sheep? They left an hour ago." And I'm like, "Oh, great!" So I drove over to Hoover Dam, and I found a pretty nice ram up on this mountain. It was dark, almost dark. I said, "I'll come back in the morning to find him." And there he was. And here's Mr. Flatlander going to go take a picture of this ram. So I start going up this pretty loose stuff. And I get pretty high up there. And then I slide down about 30 feet, make a bunch of noise. And I'm like, this ram he's gone now. And he just turns around and looks at me from up high. I was like, who is this poor idiot? And he walked down. And he stood on a shelf about 20 yards ahead for like 30 minutes. And I got these amazing photos.
He come gave you a picture.
Yeah, he's like, this poor guy's, he's got a camera. We got to help him out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And then he had a collar. He had a tag in his ear.
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat as being a member of Texas Outdoor Writers Association, being an outdoor communicator, to be able to use that photo to tell people about the research done through like things like ear tags and neck collaring. So I like when I can take something in the field and help tell a story like that.
All right. Okay. I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break. Thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back.